Today's topic is tempo and rhythm. Now, this is something that if you're gonna get really good at archery, you have to just get into a rhythmatic and a type of a flow state to where your shots are going off in equal amounts of time, or certainly within a window of time. Now, I'm purposely shooting a silverback right now because for me, the silverback or a backstrap allow me to really start my counting, because once I've let off the safety, that's when I would move into my last step of my shot routine, which is pull, 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 and finish. Okay, so once I've let off this, at that point, I'm starting a clock and I'm starting a tempo in my mind. And as I've tried to learn guitar and work through some music education, I'm starting to work with that metronome. And once you're working on timing and you're starting to get to the point where you hear that click, it becomes apparent to me that this was something I never really realized that was happening in my head when I'm shooting and focusing on a systematic and rhythmatic process to where my timing and my rhythm becomes really precise. Now for me, the whole process of loading an arrow and drawing the bow, I don't factor a lot of that into my time because I'm going to be breathing during a lot of that process. But once I've drawn back, anchored, got into my peep, I've centered everything up, at that point I'm going to stop my breathing or just pause my breathing and let my oxygen slowly escape as I'm doing that last step of pull, pull, pull until that release breaks and I finish. Now in my mind, as I'm pulling, I am counting 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000. Now for me, if I can get a shot to break between the 3,000 to the 7,000 mark, that is an optimal window for me where it's not too fast. I'm not in the yellow. I'm certainly in the green zone, 3 to 7 of, again, I'm on target, I'm engaged on the trigger, and I am fully committed to the trigger, to the pull, to the shot. And then as that starts to get to the 7 seconds, all of a sudden now I'm in the yellow zone again, or I'm in the orange, and then all of a sudden I get to the red. I run out of oxygen. My visual starts to split. I start to get a blurry pin or a blurry target, or my peep sight and my front sight starts to kind of blur out. And that's an indicator that you're out of oxygen. And at that point, you're just rolling the dice on whether or not you're going to have a crappy shot or a good one. So during your practice, start doing this, whether it's you acquiring your trigger and then the pull begins, or whether you're letting off your safety, or whether you're getting to your click, depending on what type of release system you're shooting. But then start counting with that systematic count. And if you can get to the point where you're not setting the trigger off on a certain number, by all means, don't do that. But it's all about the consistency of your pull and the consistency of your commitment to the trigger and for the shot activation. So just as to tell you, shot 1 was at 3,000, and I remember shot 4 was at 4.5, or shot 2 was at 4.5. So I'm out here just focusing on the systematic rhythm and my cadence and my count. So here we go. It's 3.5. So what's important right now, it's calm. It's a very nice, easy day to practice. But if it was windy, you start to slow down a little bit, which is okay. But again, you're keeping that window of time in the back of your mind to know where you're at. All right, let's give it this last one. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3. 3's where it's at. Now, if you are shooting a tension activated release and your pull gets very consistent like that, this is a really good time where you can start to make some adjustments to that tension so that you can change that window of time to the front or to the back of that window. It's really cool. This is something that you got to mentally think about. You have to mentally count. But the other great thing about this process of counting is it'll actually take your conscious thoughts away from the trigger and more about the continual building and the continual pulling and the continual pressure that you're building against that bow at full draw, and your shots are going to get so much more effortless and definitely more accurate.